you want to live surrounded by nature but still feel like you're close to everything, then you're absolutely going to want to check out this super sweet home in the Lakeview neighborhood in Hillsborough. This home is on almost an acre and it has super lush gardens, an incredible backyard, so more on that in a bit. I'm going to take you inside this 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath house. It has 3 fireplaces, super awesome floor plan, and I'll give you a sense of what it costs to live here, a little bit about Hillsborough and why people choose to live here. And stick with me every Monday at 5 p.m. for my newest video. So let's go inside and take a look. So if you know much about Hillsborough real estate, you know that most lots here are half an acre or more, with some exceptions. And the topography of the lot in Hillsborough is pretty fascinating. We'll talk a little bit more about that as I kind of show you around the house. But I just want to start out here because to give you the sense of how much privacy there is. We've got this like massive oak trees over here. Got this huge kind of climbing rock. Probably not a good idea to climb on it, but that's kind of what it feels like for me. And then there's this huge canopy like covering like the whole backyard. There's even moss up here that's growing down, like the Spanish moss that I feel like you would see down in Carmel, Monterey area. So the setting here is just super magical. And if you like being kind of close to a lot of things, I mean, up in Lakeview here, we're probably like a 10-minute drive to get to a shop, like period. So if you want to be 2 minutes from a shop, being in Lakeview and Hillsborough is, you know, you wouldn't be interested in it. But if you kind of like this privacy, and you're like, hey, getting in the car and driving like 10 minutes is totally not a big deal, then I think like this is something to consider or at least be open to. So let's go inside and take a look here. So when we think about Hillsborough, the median price over the last year was $5 million. This home, and I know you're gonna see it in a second, for context, there were about a dozen homes that sold under $4 million last year, and this home here is priced in the low $3 million range. So this is about as low as one can find a home in Hillsborough. And I'm gonna kind of give you a little bit more context as we move through the tour. But the house was built in 1975 by my clients, and they bought the lot and they built this beautiful house here, and overall, it's in really good condition. You have some really high ceilings here. I kind of love that. It's possible, in order to go on the market, we just kind of, this is more of a as-is sale, hence the price here. So I think it's possible someone could come in and they might choose to do a lot of painting here. They might choose to refinish the floors. You know, we do have this drop down here, which is pretty sweet, but it is possible, given the height of the ceiling, that someone could come in and kind of raise the height of the floors to make it kind of more even, you know, because this sometimes can be perceived as a little bit of a trip hazard. And then I think if that happens, then you'd probably end up adjusting all the windows here, which let in a ton of light. So when you stand here and you look out into the yard, you don't see another house. And that is kind of what you are paying the big bucks in Hillsborough for, right? It is the location and the privacy and how quiet it is. I've been here a few times and just kind of chilled in the backyard, and it is dead quiet. Like, you're not hearing that much from here. Of course, you can hear some cars going by, but you know, it's unless you're like, say, down in Woodside or Portola Valley where you're on acreage and stuff. But you know, in Hillsborough, it's still pretty good. So we're gonna take a look at these awesome oak trees in a little bit. But obviously, this is kind of the living room. There's another room over there, which is super awesome that I'm gonna show you in a sec. And then we have this wraparound deck that goes all the way around the property with some killer views that you're not gonna wanna miss. Okay, now let's pop into the kitchen. And our client remodeled the kitchen a few years ago, did a fantastic job. I just love how you kind of get some good flow between the room where we just were and then all the way over here. You know, if someone wanted to come in, they might be totally happy with the kitchen the way it is because it's totally functional. If someone want to come in and brighten it up, maybe they might consider painting the cabinets, maybe replacing the countertops. But the appliances, you can see, I mean, this is a $10,000 refrigerator here from Thermador that's only a few years old. We have a beautiful double oven here from Viking. Also, what's nice is you got a really good floor plan here, which is nice and open. And let me check this out. Like, there's some really thoughtful features here that our client put in with this like little pantry and all that. Also over here, we've got this cool little accessory that you pull out, turn this on, boom, you get fill your pot with water. That says, I've arrived. Anyways, it's nice. You got a lot of outlets here. We have, you know, kind of some pretty convenient storage space in here, a washer dryer side by side. Little bar area. And then let's take a look over here for another massive room. So this house is a little over 3,000 square feet. Lot size is about 40,000. So we're a tad under an acre. An acre's about 42,000 and change. But you can see this is very minimalist right now. Like, we haven't even staged the house, of course. But I think this is fun because many of you might be used to seeing some of my other videos where, you know, they're totally prepared and they look a certain way. But there's many different ways if you're watching watching this thing about selling a house, it's not kind of one size fits all, right? Like this is more of an as-is sale. In this case for this house, you know, it has a wood shake roof, and the wood shake roof is going to cost about $50,000 to replace. And so, you know, that's something that a buyer is going to want to take care of. It needs a sewer lateral, it needs to be replaced. So there's a few things that need to be done. The deck needs a little bit of love. So I think someone could come in here and they could move right in if they wanted to, or they might come in and invest quite a bit into the house. So we'll kind of see what happens. But anyways, this space is fantastic. This is one of the 3 fireplaces that we have. And for this price, this is incredible value. So let's go over here, and I want to take you guys up and see some of the bedrooms. And while we're popping up there, just want to give you an idea on Hillsborough real estate. So in the last year, we had 90 sales in Hillsborough. So it's not a lot. You know, you're looking at single-digit sales in 1 month. And so it's really hard to look at the Hillsborough market from a macro perspective of saying like average and median price change by month to month, because you could see a $4 million house, you could see a $10 million house, and the data set is so small. So we tend to try to look at things over time. And even more important than median and average sales price is price per square foot. I feel like that's a really good metric. And so we've seen price per square foot. Last year was, I believe, the second highest that we had. It wasn't a record number, but it was very close to the top. Okay, so over here, this is the primary suite, and we have an ensuite bath over here. Again, we got the really high ceilings, which I'm a huge fan of. You have like tons of privacy when you're looking out here. I believe these are more oak trees here. And I could see 2 houses out in the distance that are, I don't know, half a mile or a mile away. Like you have to use a telescope to like see a person there is my thought. And then just kind of at the bottom here, I believe there's some open space. So there's no other houses. Like we're on a cul-de-sac here, and there's only, I think, 4 or 5 houses on the cul-de-sac. But other than that, okay, I can hear someone drive their motorcycle that might be half a mile away, is my guess. But none of my other videos where I'm showing you guys house, I mean, there's always sounds, there's always something. So here it's like, you just kind of got to think about it first. Bathroom was recently remodeled. Again, very simple, cool color scheme. We've got some nice stone countertops here, pretty basic cabinets, and then a very simple stall shower over here. I've kind of been seeing this more of a trend recently where in the primary bath, we're not seeing 100% of remodeled bathrooms have bathtubs. It's something that I would say is like more personal. Not everyone is into that, but for people who want them, if you want one, like obviously this wouldn't check the box, but there is space here if you want to kind of expand the bathroom and do that. Oh, and then we've got a pretty good sized closet as well. So take a look in here. And you guys know that I love showing you closets here, because for millions of dollars, of course you should get a closet. So here, you know, you do get, you know, it's kind of wide here. It's a little dark, so I would redo the lighting, probably do some more painting, put in some more custom cabinetry here. But anyways, to get this kind of space for a starter price point Hillsborough is fantastic. And at the end of the video, I will share with you where this house landed. Okay, so we have up here, again, it's a total of 4 bedrooms. So we have 3 more bedrooms here, plus a hall bath. So let me show you guys. These bedrooms here, they're not massive in size, but at this price point, I think it's pretty attractive. So here we kind of have a view out on the cul-de-sac. Again, it's a simple room, like you probably wouldn't put a king in here, but a twin or double or queen could work. A queen would probably be a little aggressive, but just kind of depends on who's gonna be in the room. Again, a lot of privacy. And then I'll just show you guys the 3rd room up here. Again, very simple, looking out also into the cul-de-sac. The type of flooring here is different from what we have downstairs. That's a solid plank hardwood here. I believe this is an engineered product here, which can be sanded, but it doesn't match what's downstairs. Okay, let me show you the 4th bedroom. And this has another flooring type here. This is a hardwood here with a different pattern. So it's certainly quite possible someone could come in and choose to update all the flooring in the house at the same time. You could be looking cost-wise, it's not inexpensive. It could be $25 a square foot with 3,000 feet. You can kind of do the math. You're gonna be spending low tens of thousands of dollars on flooring if you wanted to. And then we have a pretty simple view. These windows, someone might choose to refresh. I believe the seal has broken in between the dual pane there. But again, not a huge thing. Like, not gonna stop anyone at these prices from buying the house. Over here, we have the furnace and for the upstairs, and we can kind of take a quick look at this. This is a little bit, I believe this furnace is original from 1975. And then this thing here is called a cold air return, in case you're wondering if you ever look down and you see these in houses, and that's kind of brings the air in to the furnace, and then the furnace conditions the air and then sends it out in the ductwork all around the house. If someone wanted to, they could replace this furnace with a new one that's way more efficient efficient. I'm not sure how efficient these older ones are, but you know, in the comments, if you have an idea, let me know. But my guess was 60 or 70%. Remember the house that I grew up in Burlingame, the furnace was original kind of gravity furnace from 1911. And that it cost a fortune to run that. And then my parents replaced that a few years ago, and then their energy bill went down substantially. So you could consider replacing this with either a new furnace, or even better would be a heat pump. And heat pumps kind of do both heating and air conditioning, and they use 2/3 less energy than one of these guys. Okay, then up here, we've got a full bath, and kind of take a look at this. Very thoughtfully updated, and you know, kind of similar countertops and cabinets as what's in the primary suite. So pretty simple, and it is nice that you do have one bathtub on this level. So if you're thinking about buying in Hillsborough and just getting started with your search, give me a call. Would love to chat with you more about it. Okay, but why do people buy in Hillsborough, right? Like, you know, some people say, oh, it's kind of farther away from stuff, or it's a little too private. Or, I mean, when a lot of these homes were being built back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was really sought after to have a home with a gate in front and a long driveway and all that. And that has become, I'd say, a little bit less popular now, but by popular, that's relative, right? Because there's still tons of people who are buying large homes with gates and driveways and estates, and you could spend tens of millions of dollars on that. I'd say for many buyers, at least from my experience, you know, people like being able to know their neighbors and all that. And so what's interesting is when you kind of you can check out my video on Burlingame versus Hillsborough, but in 2018, price per square foot in Burlingame surpassed the average price per square foot in Hillsborough. So I've represented many clients who have purchased in Burlingame who could have purchased in Hillsborough. And so conversely, you end up getting slightly more demand for the areas that are a little bit more walkable and flatter. And because of that, Hillsborough pricing is still more expensive than average and median pricing in nearby Burlingame and San Mateo. But you end up getting a lot better value in Hillsborough if you're able to get in at a higher price point. And by value, I mean, you're gonna get a lot more land. So here, I mean, you're basically on an acre. Like you look out here, it is so private. I'm looking at all different kinds of trees. You got oak, redwood. I'm hearing birds, very little traffic. Like you pick a neighborhood in Burlingame, you're not really gonna be getting that. And so when you're kind of up here, people who choose to buy in Hillsborough, they value the privacy. They value just how much space they have. They like having all the greenery. Now the greenery is a little bit of a concern now with insurance and fire safety and all that. So you want to make sure you have defensible space, which is now a requirement actually in Hillsborough, where Hillsborough comes out once a year and they'll do an inspection. In fact, to prepare this home for going to the market, we had to do what's called the WUI inspection, the Wildland Urban Interface Inspection. And then someone comes out from the town of Hillsborough fire department called Central County Fire, which is shared with Burlingame. And then they do an inspection here and they made some recommendations. And then our client ended up spending, I think it was about $5,500 to do some trimming prior to putting the home on the market to comply with that requirement. But I think that's really why people choose to live here. So anyways, if you're thinking about this, you have more questions, always love to chat. And I feel like something like this is really exceptional value if you're drawn to this privacy and you're drawn to kind of feeling like you're in nature all the time. All right, so from a garage perspective, this is actually pretty good. And this is more of what you can get in Hillsborough, whereas in Burlingame, like you can't really get this, right? So here we have a 3-car garage, and we've got basically a 1-car and then a 2-car from a garage door perspective, and there's some built-in cabinetry. Like personally, I consider adding some epoxy on the floor here, which would just kind of clean it up and make it feel a little bit more fresh. We just have some like other oil stains and whatnot. But anyways, in Hillsborough, you're highly likely to get an attached garage, which is kind of funny when you're talking about, of course, when you're spending like $3, $4, or $5 million, you should get an attached garage. But look, you can go in Burlingame and buy a new construction house for $5 million and you have a detached garage. So personally, I'm a huge fan of attached garages. At one of our houses, we've got an attached garage. I absolutely love it. It's just nice. I don't have space like this. We just have a 1-car that we can't really fit a car in because we got cabinetry and stuff everywhere. But I do think this is really nice. And this could be a workout area. It could be a home office. There's so much that you could do here. If you're into cycling, you hang your bikes or whatever, like there's so many different ways that you can use this cool garage. All right, this is my favorite part of the deck here because I can kind of see all the way over to the neighbor's house, and then you just kind of look around and it just wraps around. You know, I guess I think about that word awe, and I don't want to be cheesy since, you know, it's a real estate video here, educating you guys, but it's a beautiful setting. Like I'm grateful to be here. I just feel relaxing, all these trees. What more can you ask for? When we check out the backyard here, I mean, you kind of got a sense, because I've been repeating over and over again, the privacy of Hillsborough, you know, this lot size, all that. I'm gonna kind of take you a little bit over here now, and you're gonna kind of get a sense with the wraparound deck was over there, and then we've got the oak tree over here. While we're kind of cruising over here, God, I love hearing the birds. I grew up with, and my mom is super into birds, and she actually had an aviary in our kitchen. And so I'm no bird expert, but I never told you that, but it's pretty funny. You should could walk in the kitchen sometimes, there'd be like little bird seed on the ground, so I would always wear shoes and stuff. But hey, love my mom. So you can kind of check out this whole area and you can see some fencing, but I just want to show you how far back this goes. And this is kind of cool, but I want to show you down here how far the lot goes. I have another property coming up soon in the Burlingame Hills, which is kind of similar lot size and has some panoramic views, and I'll be doing a really cool video on that house for you guys soon. But just take a look, you can kind of see the fence here, how far it goes. And I feel like, you know, I don't have always the right idea, but I feel like over here, this would be cool if you're doing a deck and you want to extend the yard and doing like a whole platform here. Maybe you can run a hot tub. This could be a good spot for an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit, kind of like a guest cottage in your backyard. You could do something up to like 800-ish square feet easily. I think that would be in here. Obviously in Hillsborough, we have something called a protected tree. So if the diameter of the tree is more than a certain width, then it's a tree that you just cannot remove, right? And if it's a smaller tree, you can. So, but you typically need to seek the permission of the town before you go ahead and do that. So you'd want to talk to an arborist and get a sense, like if you can remove the tree or not, because we do want to follow the rules here and protect these beautiful trees. But anyways, I love what's here. Now, you might be wondering, okay, at this price point in Hillsborough, what else can I get? Okay, so pricing this at $3.3 million, and there's not a whole lot that you can get in the lower threes. But once you kind of move a little bit on up into the mid, higher three range, or 4 million, you're typically gonna start to see a flatter lot. The topography of a lot in Hillsborough makes a world of difference. So you could have one property that, you know, has something like this, where if it's an acre in like maybe anywhere in Hillsborough, like even if it was a half acre that's completely pancake flat, that's gonna add another 7 figures just to the asking price and to the value of the house, which sounds crazy, but I mean, you could take this house and put it on a completely flat lot, and could it be worth $1 million more? That's possible, right? It depends on condition and floor plan and all those other things, but it is possible that it could be worth a lot more. So if you're kind of looking to get into Hillsborough under $4 million, something like this would be a good option. Could you get a little bit more yard at a higher price? You could, but could the house need even more work? That is possible to update the house. And then once you start getting into the mid $4s and $5 million range, then you're gonna get something that's a little bit more remodeled, maybe a little bit larger yard, or more of a flatter area, and then maybe something that was a little bit more recently remodeled. There was a property on Reddington that just closed a couple weeks ago, and that was listed by my awesome colleague, Kim Gelman. And that was a 3-bedroom house, but it had an office, and it was a really prime part of Hillsborough. It was asking 5.3-ish, and it ended up selling for 6.4 million with a bunch of offers. You know, so when we think about pricing and all that, people say, oh my God, is it possible you could have multiple offers in Hillsborough even at these high price points? The answer is yes, absolutely. At the right price, everything will sell. And at the right price, if the price is attractive and low enough, then it's highly likely that you could also have multiple offers. So if you're thinking about buying, even when we think about what's going on in the world economy right now, and tariffs and the stock market and all that, ultimately, like, you can't live in your stock. So if you're sitting on a bunch of stock, you know, equities, sure, have they dropped a lot in the last few weeks? Yes. But if you're looking to buy, chances are maybe you've already have that money in cash, or maybe, okay, so it dropped 10-15%, but you still want to buy in 2025. I think people are still going to go ahead and do that. When you look at these towns, Hillsborough, you're getting, you know, 7 or 8 sales per month. You look at Burlingame at 14 sales per month, and you look at San Mateo, you know, with more than that. Like, there's just not a lot of homes that are selling, and so the pool of buyers is so deep compared to the amount of supply that's there. And so that's kind of why we could have some jitteriness this year. I'm not sure exactly what'll happen, but I feel pretty bullish that we're not going to see like any craziness happening in our market. When things are scary out there in the equities market, a lot of times people do retreat into real estate. Anyways, I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea about a fun property. I'm going to put the number here on the screen where this one has sold, so you have an idea. And if you're thinking about making a move to Hillsborough or within Hillsborough or anywhere in San Mateo County, I'd love to be your Peninsula real estate resource of choice. But check out this video where I kind of highlight some of the differences between Burlingame and Hillsborough. I'll see you guys soon.